Two seeds carried the same dreams on the same piece of fertile land in a garden. They wanted to be the largest tree in the garden, but the seeds knew that to be that tree, they needed to jump into the ground. They may need to endure darkness, the absence of water, many untold challenges. And yet, they knew that if they wanted to be that tree, they needed to be able to do this as a seed. So the first seed jumped into the ground and it slowly became a seedling, a small shrub, and then very soon, in a couple of years, was one of the most beautiful trees in the garden. The other seed decided to wait, and as it waited, a hen came that way, pecked on the seed and moved on. What dreams in your own life have been paying the price of your inaction? Inaction is when I know what steps need to be taken to solve a problem or to ease out a situation or to access a better quality of life, and yet I don't do that. The most commonly compromised goals have been health related, where we decide that we're going to be more fit, eat better food, have less stress in our life, get more sleep in our life. The second, of course, is finance, where we're going to give up impulsive spending in favor of investment. The third area is relationships, where we promise ourselves that we're going to communicate or have that difficult conversation with a spouse or a partner or a friend, set healthier boundaries probably, or give closure to relationships that are no longer healthy. Then there are those missed opportunities where we didn't make that call, didn't send CV, didn't reply to an email, and missed out on a golden opportunity. The most common is self-care and self-development related, where we always put away for later what we could achieve straight away. People heard a rumor that there was going to be a very big famine. 20,000 small farmers abandoned their farms and ran to the city to find a new job. And sure enough, because the farm was neglected, there was a famine and the crop failed. I saw a student once who came in for counseling. She had done every possible self-development course, had read every possible book, had also attended a lot of life coaching sessions, had gone in for therapy, but at the same time, there was a lot of discomfort in her life and she didn't know what to do about it. And the whole thing was that though she knew all of this, consistent action and effort was missing. She always knew that there was a next best course, the next set of coaching advice that would come in, and that stopped her from taking action. What excuses and distractions do you use to prevent yourself from taking that consistent action or putting in that consistent effort? Are you using binge watching and social media to keep yourself distracted? Do you resort to perfection to have that illusionary sense of control? Do you keep procrastinating because you believe that if I don't start something, I cannot fail? Are you always too busy? Are you always taking up a lot of other projects so you can never prioritize your own work? So the question for reflection, what distractions and excuses do you use to prevent yourself from taking action? 10 people crossed a river, and when they reached the other side, each of the 10 people counted 9 people and felt that one person had drowned. This is very similar to how inaction is. Why am I so unwilling? What unpleasant emotions and triggers am I unwilling to address? In what way am I missing out the role I need to be playing? And the typical example is of this lady who keeps saying, I stay silent in my marriage for the sake of peace in the family. But what she doesn't realize is as she keeps peace, she actually starts off a storm within herself. My parents always communicate better with my husband or with my wife, and so let them do the talking. But the fact is, you are in the relationship. So if you don't count yourself there, how will the marriage work? Or how will the relationship work if you allow a third person to be always mediating on your behalf? I don't know, I've never done this before, I'm really afraid. What stops you from learning is the question I would ask, because everything can be learned with a little bit of effort. It's not the right time to do it now. And then I would ask you, when is the right time? For this, you may need to sit down and actually look at, is this worry that's coming in, this self-doubt that's coming in, genuine? Are there really reasons or factors that tell you that this is not the right time? Or is it from, you'll be out of control if you do it now? A snake had a lot of conflict. The tail wanted to lead and kept fighting with the head. On one particular day, the tail wrapped itself round a tree and refused to let the head move. So the head, out of complete despair, told the tail, okay, if you really want to lead, lead. And so the tail decided to lead the snake, and it realized very late that it did not have eyes to lead the snake, and very soon the snake found itself burning in a pit of fire. Now this is very typically like a political situation in any country. A charismatic leader, a former hero or actor, someone who's popular among the masses, gets elected to office. What gets them into office is never sufficient for them to stay in office or for good governance, and then they end up messing up the whole thing. This happens in marriage as well. It may work with attraction, or in a friendship where a particular set of goals united you initially, but it may not be sufficient to sustain the relationship over a period of time. Similarly, I would ask you, in inaction, when it comes to how did you get here? Will it be enough for you to move forward? One of the core reasons for inaction is that we don't have the skills required to take us to the next step. It may have been okay initially, but it's not enough for the next step. I've learned from experience that there are 3 ways to deal with any situation. 1, you fix it. 2, you adjust and accept. 3, you walk away from it by setting healthy boundaries or giving it closure. When it comes to a health goal, can I fix it by choosing to get to bed earlier and turning off social media for a certain period of time? When it comes to a relationship, I realize that this unpleasant conversation with my teenager is going to have its repercussions, but unless I have this, the rebellion in the home is not going to change. When it comes to adjusting and accepting, do I accept that this is an aging body and it cannot do the kind of work that it was doing 10 years back, but it can do what it can do now, and I need to accept and adjust with that. When it comes to the relationship, do I understand that my teenager is developmentally going through something that's very challenging? So can I support my teenager by accepting this developmental stage and working along with him or her? When it comes to closure and when it comes to walking away, do I realize that this kind of food is not good for my body right now and I'm not going to eat it, I'm not going to order it, I'm not going to cook it? Can I make those changes? Or when it comes to a relationship, when my teenager says, don't look at my phone, give me my privacy, is it something that I'm willing to set boundaries about and trust my teenager through this process? So this is how you realize that when the growing needs of a relationship or a situation come up, similar to the snake, am I going to allow the tail to lead, or am I going to redefine the process and allow my head to keep the focus? What small steps can you take every day to overcome this habit of inaction? Can you set up a connection ritual to be able to build on your relationship? Can you start taking small walks to be able to reach your fitness goals? Focus so much on the internal rewards and not so much on the external. So instead of looking at how many kgs I lost or how many inches I lost, you could focus on how fit I feel. Notice and eliminate the distractions and excuses in your life. And remember to make micro recoveries. We are human, so we will have small backslides when we start working. Don't be too hard on yourself, don't be too critical or judgmental. Remember that just like when we are cycling and we lose balance and our body comes back into balance, when it comes to the mind, it's important for us to remember how to make that micro recovery, realizing that we've distracted ourselves or made an excuse, and come back on track. The destination may not change overnight, but the direction can. We may not always remain motivated, but we can always remain disciplined, and therefore discipline carries us through the days that motivation cannot. I'll end with a Sufi story. The Sufi master was sitting inside his tent in the desert, and his student walked in and he said, "Master, I've not tied my camel outside because I believe that the divine will take care of my camel." The master raised his voice and he said, "Go and tie your camel. Whatever it is you can do, don't expect the divine to do it for you." I would urge you to go back on the stories and the introspective questions and work through them. In subsequent videos, I will also talk about how we can deal with unpleasant emotions that may be triggered when we start working on ourselves. I hope this short video was useful.